Hi, I'm Dr. Viola, and I'm here as a faculty liaison to Marshall Online Learning to talk a little bit about how to engage in learner-to-learner engagement in your online courses. So for those of you who don't know, this follows the HOME Standard 3C, and as you can see, HOME stands for Humanistic Online Model for Engagement, and Standard 3. And it's really standard 3C all the way down here at the very end. And this promotes learner-to-learner engagement through various means. So I'm going to start by explaining what I'm doing right now in my asynchronous course, English 378. So English 378 is an intermediate fiction workshop. It's structured similarly like a fine arts studio-based class, where students study the craft of writing fiction and then produce their own examples and display them for review, and they engender written feedback from their peers, classmates. So the question was, when I designed this class to be asynchronous, because I used to teach this face-to-face, is how does one do this in an asynchronous course? So to give you a little quick history lesson, what we used to do is a day before the class session, before someone's creative work was to be discussed, they would come in with a stack of photocopies of their work, and they would distribute them in class. Everyone would take them home, read them, make comments, and then come back in class. We would talk about it, and then all those copies would go back to the author. So obviously that can't be done in an asynchronous course. So just a couple of strategies, what I used to do, I still do to a certain extent in Blackboard to try and engage in learner that facet is in the past and currently I follow the basic discussion board method of post-response. So for smaller assignments, students have 48 hours to respond to one or two of their peers' posts based on a reading and a set of questions. So a set of questions are set out, students answer them, they post them, and then they have 48 hours to respond to one of their peers. It could be two peers, it could be one, depending on the assignment. From the time when students have to engage in their workshop portion of the courses, they submit their own example to the class. So I also have used the discussion board method of having a student post their work, and students read the work and then post feedback based on a specific prompt. And this prompt is usually questions that are related to fiction writing. So I've essentially used the standard method of a student posts something, everyone gets in a discussion board, everyone gets to read it, and then they leave their feedback in the discussion board. Currently, I chose to change things up a little bit. I divided the class into groups of 5. And then I gave them group assignments. It's a smaller version of the specific prompt of questions related to fiction writing. And then for this activity, they were required to post their shorter responses to their group chat. And within their group, there would be 5 members. And then one of the people from this group would synthesize all the responses and then provide that response to the larger class discussion board thread. So you wouldn't see as many as 14 responses to one, you would see as many as 3, and it would just be more sort of concise. And then students would take turns synthesizing these responses. So some of the problems which led me to rethink this approach is that this is a heavy emphasis on the discussion board. Now, when I started teaching online 7 years ago, the discussion board was the main tool to get students to interact. I'm finding out now that there's different options. What happens if not all the students participate, or if they post late? There's that problem, because that holds up the whole group work angle. Blackboard discussion, sometimes the way it stacks responses, at least on my end, it gets a little confusing. It's hard to sort through. In the long run, it becomes much more work. There's more confusion. Remember, this is asynchronous, so I'm not speaking with the students face-to-face in a real time, and they're logging in on their convenience, and the overall process is just clumsy, to be honest with you. So, and there's difficulty and challenges in keeping up with who is doing the work. So what I'm going to do for this term, and English 378 has more than one workshop session. So for the second workshop session, I teamed up with Chase Lucas, and he's a design instructor, and we talked about OneNote as a tool, and this seemed to be the best course of action to achieve this learner-to-learner component in the most productive and efficient way. So there are several steps to this process, but once you follow them and use OneNote a few times, it becomes routine. This is something that Chase has worked on, by the way, with other departments and instructors. Videos of those experiences can be found in the Ultra Instructor Resource Center under Organizations in Blackboard. So how I plan to use OneNote, I call it the art gallery metaphor. So the best way I can explain this is through this metaphor of the art gallery. Every student in my class, every artist has their own space at this art gallery. In the world of OneNote, this space is called a page that is created in the collaborative space portion of OneNote. So students display their work on their page, on the left-hand side of the page, and then their peers come to visit this page and then leave their feedback in a text box, which is on the right-hand side of the page. And students have access to all of their peers' pages and vice versa. So I'm going to run you through a quick example of how to build one. I'm going to use my development home space in Blackboard, and then I'm going to show you the finished product, mostly the finished product in English 378, which I'm going to be doing later on this term. So if we look here, we've got the development home right here. And then what you could do is you can hit that and, let me take a step back here. Actually, you have to go to View and Course Tools. And if you scroll down, you'll see the one class notebook, so you have to hit plus. And then you'll see your one class notebook right back down there. And then you can open it up. And it has to go through a couple of steps of launching. You have to log in or sign into OneNote. Okay, so this is what you'll first see when you access the OneNote link to access to your course. So you have to essentially name the course, the notebook as the name of your course. So this is Development Home and my last name. Then you could actually, for the purposes that I use it for, I skip steps 2 and 3. I don't need to add another teacher. Adding students' names, I just use the automatically add students from the LMS. Once students access the notebook, OneNote would automatically register them, and they are set to add documents and add comments and things like that. When it comes to private spaces, I don't need any of these, so I just delete them all. And then I skip to the preview and then just select create, and just takes a couple of seconds as this sets up the entire class. So at this point, I just go back to home, and then you open class notebook right there. And so once you're at this part, I'm just using this strictly for the collaboration space. And then you want to add section, and let's try that one more time. And then, so I'm going to just title this group work. And you could title it whatever you want. If a specific assignment comes into mind, you could do that too. And now you see group work is up here and untitled page. And then at this point, actually on the advice of Chase, he said to create a template. This way, once you figure out exactly what you want your students to do, then you can just copy this and make multiple versions, and then you would actually enter your students' names, and this would be their this is their space, so this is kind of like their art gallery, if that makes, their art gallery space, if that makes any sense, going back to that metaphor. So over here, I could essentially put submit work, and then this would be exactly where they would want to do that. So they would go here and then click insert, and then they can go to file, and then they can insert a file attachment. And then over here, I could put down post feedback. Oh, I misspelled post. There we go. And of course, I'm just doing this right now, and this does not look as aesthetically pleasing as it could, but it's just to kind of get the point across. Okay, so this is pretty much how you would do this, and you would copy this template. Once you get it all set up, copy it, and then rename it under your students' names. And then again, each one of those pages is their sort of art gallery. Okay, so that was how to get you to start your own. I'm going to show you what I have in the works right now. And again, it's not complete, but again, this is English 378. So I have everything down into units. This is going to be moved, and right now it's hidden from the students because I'm still working on it. But this will be in a different folder for when the second workshop comes up. Yep, here we go. So you might have to just, the system could be a little slow. So I'm going to open up my class notebook. Okay, and here's the collaboration space. You can see I got Student Fiction 2 workshop. That's what that means. And because Student Fiction 1 I had done the old way. So here's the template. Please submit Student Fiction 2 here. Students would submit their work here, and then they would leave their feedback here. So every student would come by and visit this place. So Andrea, let's just say she is a student in the class. She would post her work here, and then this would be her sort of art gallery space, and then everyone would come by and leave their feedback. And there will be a row of all of these different templates. Of course, they'll have different student names, and essentially that's how they're going to navigate their way through. I'm really looking forward to doing this, the second part of the class. This is far better than using the discussion board. I think perhaps because I learned online learning back when we had the original Blackboard, so this technology wasn't as readily available and in sync with Blackboard, but this looks to be a very, very much better way than relying on the discussion board. So I want to thank you for your time, and I hope you found this to be very helpful.